On a freezing Christmas Eve, I stood before a glossy oak door, my breath visible in the Ohio winter air, unaware that the warmth inside would unravel a family secret that had been hidden from me for years, a secret that would change everything. I thought I knew about my place in the world. The biting cold of Ohio pierced through my threadbare jacket as I stood before the glossy oak door at 1432 Hollow Creek. My phone, still warm from Grandpa Will's call, buzzed faintly in my pocket. His voice had been bright with excitement. "Dorian, come over right now. I'm at your parents' new house." Grandpa Will, a titan in Chicago's construction world, rarely left his bustling empire to visit our quiet suburban town. His unexpected presence sparked a warmth in me that rivaled the chill of the December night. I pushed the door open, and a wave of heat from the fireplace, laced with the rich scent of roasted meat and pine, enveloped me. Grandpa sat at the head of the dining table, his silver hair catching the chandelier's light, his eyes twinkling like the Christmas star atop the tree. He rose, his broad frame towering, and pulled me into a hug, his familiar woody cologne erasing the weight of my exhaustion. "Dorian, do you like this house?" he asked, his voice brimming with pride, as if he'd built it himself and laid it at my feet. "It's beautiful, Grandpa," I said, forcing my voice to stay even, "but it's my parents' house." The room fell silent, the crackle of the fire suddenly deafening. Grandpa's face hardened, his eyes narrowing as they flicked from me to my father, Gregory, then to my stepmother, Susan, seated across the polished table. My father, always composed, went pale, his hand trembling around his wineglass. Susan coughed, her lips twisting into a strained smile, her eyes betraying a flash of panic. "Your parents' house?" Grandpa repeated, his voice dropping to a cold, cutting edge. "Dorian, explain yourself." I didn't understand the sudden tension, but a knot of unease tightened in my chest. I glanced at my father, expecting him to clarify, but he stared at the table, avoiding my gaze. Susan jumped in, her voice quivering. "Will, there's a misunderstanding. This is the family's house." Grandpa didn't look at her. His eyes bored into me, and in that moment, I felt the weight of a secret about to break free, a secret that would shatter the fragile world I'd known. My name is Dorian Marston, and this is the story of a boy who grew up in the shadow of injustice, cast aside by his own family. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong, like your existence was a footnote in someone else's story, you might understand me. But even if you haven't, I ask you to listen a tale of scars, resilience, and the light I found in the darkness. I was born in a small Ohio town where autumn painted the streets with golden leaves, and neighbors greeted each other like kin. But my family was a fractured exception. My mother, Diana, died shortly after my birth, taken by medical complications that remain a mystery to me, like a half-read book with missing pages. She was the light I never knew, a warmth I could only imagine through stories. My father, Gregory Marston, was a stern man, his eyes always distant, as if my presence was a painful echo of the wife he lost. When I was 3, he married Susan, a woman whose smile never reached her eyes, whose every glance seemed to calculate my worth and find it lacking. They had a son, Benjamin Ben, the axis around which their world spun. To my father, Ben was the Marston legacy, the golden child destined for greatness. To Susan, he was her pride, her purpose. And me? I was the stepchild, the shadow lingering in the corners of a house that never felt like home. The disparity stung early. At 5, I sat in the living room, watching Ben unwrap a sleek remote-controlled car, its bright red body gleaming under the Christmas lights. My gift was a used plastic car, its wheels chipped, its paint faded. "Ben needs new things to develop his intellect," Susan said, her tone implying I was unworthy of such investment. When I brought home high grades, my father offered a curt nod. "Not bad, Dorian, but don't get complacent." Yet when Ben scraped by with a C, the house erupted in praise, as if he'd conquered the world. I wasn't jealous, at least I tried not to be. I just wanted to be seen, to hear a word of pride, to feel loved, even once. Susan's words were like slow poison. "Dorian, why can't you be more like Ben?" She'd say, her voice soft but sharp. Or, You should be grateful to live in this house. Each phrase cut deeper, planting seeds of doubt. Was I a burden? Was I truly unworthy? My father didn't help. His mantra was discipline, his affection reserved for Ben. Our family wasn't poor. My father's job as an insurance manager provided enough, but it wasn't wealth that defined us. It was favoritism. Susan doted on Ben like he was royalty, ensuring his every whim was met, while I was reminded to be grateful for scraps. My room was a cramped attic, its creaky bed and single window overlooking a dark alley, while Ben's spacious bedroom overflowed with toys, posters, and the latest gadgets. Once, I dared ask why I couldn't have a room downstairs. My father's response was a snap. "Don't ask for too much, Dorian. Know your place." Those words became my cage. I learned to wear a mask, to smile through the storm raging inside. I told myself I'd escape, prove I wasn't the useless child they saw. At 18, I graduated high school with solid grades, but no one at home noticed. I dreamed of college, of becoming an engineer, of making Grandpa Will the one person who truly cared proud. But that dream was crushed one evening when I asked my father about scholarships or loans. His eyes were cold, unyielding. "We don't have enough money, Dorian. Ben needs to be prioritized. He has great potential." The words landed like a blow. Ben, who spent his days playing video games, was the one with potential. I didn't argue or cry. I nodded, walked to my attic, and lay on my creaky bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. That night I made a vow. If they didn't believe in me, I'd believe in myself. I took a job at Walmart, starting as a cashier, then moving to the stockroom. The work was grueling, long night shifts, demanding customers and endless boxes to unload, but every paycheck was a brick in the foundation of my freedom. I rented a rundown apartment on the south side of town, its walls stained, its faucet leaking, but it was mine. No more of Susan's cutting remarks or my father's disappointed glances. I learned to fix the plumbing, cook simple meals, and keep my head above water. Meanwhile, Ben lived a charmed life. My father and Susan paid for his private school, bought him a new car, and ensured he never lifted a finger. Once, Susan came to Walmart, saw me behind the counter, and smirked. "Dorian, this is what you're doing. Such a shame. Ben will never do menial work like this." I forced a smile, but inside I wanted to scream. Why am I less deserving than him? Grandpa Will was my anchor. From Chicago, where he ran his construction empire, he called when he could, his voice a lifeline across the miles. "Dorian, you're a strong young man. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise," he'd say. I never told him about my father's neglect or Susan's cruelty. I didn't want him to worry, and part of me feared he'd see me as weak. He was the only one who spoke of my mother, Diana, describing her as a gentle soul who loved books and dreamed of a just world. He carried guilt for not being there when she died, his work keeping him away. "If I'd been there, things might have been different," he said, his voice breaking. I didn't blame him. I only wished I could have known her, felt her love, even for a moment. At 21, my life was a cycle of night shifts, instant noodles, and restless sleep in my tiny apartment. One summer afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Susan. "Come to the new house tonight. 1432, Hollow Creek, small party." I stared at the message, confused. They'd never mentioned moving. No one had asked if I wanted to live with them. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but a flicker of hope, maybe a chance to reconnect, pushed me to go. I stopped by a liquor store for an affordable bottle of red wine and picked up a handkerchief I'd ordered, embroidered with GM for my father. It wasn't much, but it was thoughtful, a gesture to bridge the gap. The house was in a pristine neighborhood, all manicured, lawns and newly planted maples. The cream-colored home stood out, its stone-stepped yard and arched windows exuding wealth. I parked, clutching my gifts, my heart pounding with a strange mix of anticipation and dread. Susan opened the door, her silk dress pristine, her makeup flawless, but her smile was thin. "Oh, Dorian, come in," she said, her voice lacking warmth. The living room was grand, glossy wooden floors, a granite fireplace, beige armchairs under a classic chandelier. Family photos adorned the walls. My father and Susan's wedding, Ben with a sports trophy. None included me. I wasn't surprised, but it still stung. My father was in the kitchen, opening a bottle of wine, looking more relaxed than usual in a white dress shirt. He gave a single nod. "Oh, you're here." I handed him the wine and handkerchief, saying, "Congratulations on the new house, Dad." He set them on the table without a glance and turned away. The party was small new neighbors, an older couple, and a colleague chatting about property values and plans for a backyard pool. I sat in a corner, silent, sipping water while they drank wine. Susan boasted, "We searched forever for this house. Luckily, we closed before prices shot up." My father nodded, smiling. I tried to share their joy, wanting to believe they'd found happiness, but I felt like an outsider in their world. Life settled back into its rhythm, but something shifted. For every major holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Ben's birthday, even my father and Susan's anniversary, I received curt texts. 6 p.m., come for dinner, be on time. I went. Not out of love, but duty, hoping each visit might soften the distance between us. I brought small, carefully chosen gifts, a book for Susan, a tie for my father, but they were set aside, unopened, without thanks. Stranger still, they began pulling me into family photos. At first Christmas, Susan called, "Dorian, stand closer to Ben, family picture." I stood at the edge, forcing an awkward smile as the camera clicked. It felt like stepping into a staged play, my role unclear. Later, they took more photos, Susan sometimes placing a hand on my shoulder, her smile too bright. I asked once, after Ben's birthday, "Why so many family photos lately?" Susan laughed. "We just want to capture memories. You're family too, aren't you?" Her words rang hollow, and my unease grew. I wasn't that something was off, like I was being used in a performance I didn't understand. On Christmas, when I was 23, the truth detonated. I'd just finished a grueling shift at Walmart, sipping coffee in my chilly apartment when my phone rang. It was Grandpa Will. "Dorian, come to 1432 Hollow Creek. I'm here." My heart skipped. He rarely left Chicago, his construction company demanding his time. Why was he at my father's house? I threw on my jacket and drove through the snowy streets, questions swirling. The house glowed with Christmas lights, wreaths on the door, a tree twinkling through the window. Susan opened the door, her smile faltering. "Dorian, why are you?" She stopped, glancing over my shoulder as Grandpa's voice boomed. "Dorian, my boy, come in." He stood in the living room, tall and imposing, his silver hair gleaming. He hugged me, his embrace tight with excitement and a hint of tension. "This house, wonderful, isn't it?" "Are you happy living here?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "I don't live here, Grandpa." "I just visit," I said, a wave of unease crashing over me. His smile vanished, his eyes narrowing at my father, who stood by the fireplace, wineglass in hand. Susan jumped in, her voice syrupy. "Will, Dorian likes living independently. Don't you?" Her eyes urged me to agree, but Grandpa's gaze held me. "Tell me the truth." "I live in a rented apartment on the south side, paid with my supermarket wages." The room went still, the air heavy. My father's grip tightened on his glass, his face ashen. Susan stammered, "Will, we thought it was best for Dorian. Ben needs space to enough." Grandpa's voice sliced through her words. "Gregory explained. 2 years ago, I sent you $400,000 to buy a 3-bedroom house in this neighborhood for Dorian, to give him a good start. Why is he in a rundown apartment while you live here?" My father's face drained of color. Susan opened her mouth, but no sound came. I stood frozen, the words sinking in. "A house for me? $400,000? My father stammered, "I thought it would be better for the whole family. Dorian's independent. Ben needs a good environment to grow. Doesn't need." Grandpa roared, stepping toward him. "You stole the house meant for Dorian. You put it in your name, didn't you?" Susan interjected, her voice desperate. "Will, you don't understand. Dorian isn't my biological son. Ben's the future of this family. Dorian doesn't deserve." "Shut up!" Grandpa's shout shook the room. "Dorian is Diana's flesh and blood, my daughter's son, my grandson. I trusted you, Gregory, to care for him. But you stole his gift and deceived me with these fake family photos." He pointed at a picture on the wall, me standing awkwardly at the edge, a prop in their charade. My throat tightened. The photos, the forced smiles, the invitations, it was all to convince Grandpa I was part of this happy family, to hide their betrayal. I looked at my father, waiting for an explanation, an apology. He stayed silent, his eyes on the floor. "Dorian," Grandpa said, his voice softening but firm, "get your things. You're coming to Chicago with me. This house will be yours, as I intended. Gregory, my Lauer will deal with you." Susan burst into tears, but I felt no pity. My father mumbled, "Dorian, I wanted what was best for the family." "Best for the family?" I said, my voice cold. "You never saw me as family. I spent my life trying to make you proud, but all you saw was Ben? You took my chance and lied?" I turned away, unable to look at him. Grandpa's sleek black SUV waited outside, the cold biting as we left the house that should have been mine. The driver, James, opened the door and we slid into the warm leather seats. "To the hotel," Grandpa said, his voice low. I stared out the window, the Christmas lights blurring past like fading hopes. "Are you okay, Dorian?" he asked, his eyes piercing. "I don't know, Grandpa," I admitted. "It's all happening so fast." He placed a hand on my knee. "From now on, things will be different. You'll come to Chicago. We'll start over, just us." The next morning, we flew to Chicago. From the plane, I watched Ohio's snow-covered fields fade below, feeling like I was leaving a worn-out life. Behind, Chicago's skyscrapers gleamed under the winter sun, a city of possibility. James drove us to an upscale neighborhood, stopping at a 3-story mansion with iron gates and vibrant rosebush. "Welcome to my home, Dorian," Grandpa said, clapping my shoulder. "Now it's yours too." The mansion was a world apart, marble floors, a spiral staircase, abstract paintings on the walls. My bedroom was a dream, a king-size bed, a walnut desk, with a new laptop and a window overlooking a garden. I sat on the bed, clutching my small bag of belongings, feeling like an imposter. The Ohio house meant for me still ached like a bruise. Over dinner at a candlelit restaurant, Grandpa's voice was grave. "2 years ago, I sent Gregory $400,000 for that house in Hollow Creek. A gift for you to build your future. I was too busy to oversee it, so I trusted him. I was wrong." He paused, anger flashing in his eyes. "I also sent money yearly for your school, clothes, everything, but he kept it for Ben and Susan." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. All those years in hand-me-downs, eating instant noodles, working to survive, it could have been different. My father had stolen not just a house, but the life Grandpa intended for me. "I didn't know," I said, my voice choking. "Dad said there wasn't enough money." Grandpa slammed his hand on the table, drawing stares. "That bastard betrayed you and your mother's memory." My eyes stung at Diana's name. "I'm suing Gregory," he said. "The house will be yours." "Don't sue him," I said, my voice firm despite the pain. "Cut off his support. I want to start over here, not fight over the past." Grandpa's eyes softened. "You're stronger than I thought, Dorian. Diana would be proud." In Chicago, I rebuilt myself. Grandpa introduced me to his construction company, a sleek downtown office buzzing with energy. I started as an assistant in the planning department, organizing documents and learning blueprints. The work was complex, but I thrived, earning respect from colleagues who saw my effort, not just my connection to the boss. I explored Chicago's vibrant streets, from bustling markets to quiet museums, feeling the city's pulse awaken my own. At an engineering club, I met Emma, whose sharp wit and radiant smile made me feel seen. We bonded over late-night study sessions, her teasing about my meticulous notes lightening my heart. I enrolled in college, majoring in civil engineering, funded by selling the Ohio house. Each lecture, each project brought me closer to my dream. I began writing a book, not just my story, but a reflection on resilience, on turning pain into strength. One evening, Grandpa handed me a framed photo of my mother, Diana, smiling with a small dog. "She wanted you to be happy," he said. "You have her heart." Tears fell as I traced her face, her strength fueling mine. 2 years later, I was thriving. My father's family, however, was unraveling. Rumors from Ohio reached me through Grandpa's friends. Gregory lost his job at the insurance company, distracted by family turmoil. Susan, unprepared for work, struggled to adapt. They'd sold Ben's car, Susan's jewelry, and moved to a cramped apartment with leaky pipes, a mirror of my old life. Ben, once the golden child, dropped out of college after one semester, unable to handle the pressure. He worked at a fast food restaurant, but was fired for mistakes. Bouncing between jobs he couldn't keep. One autumn, Susan called, her voice stripped of its old arrogance. "Dorian, we're in trouble. Ben's struggling. We're family." The word family felt like a slap. "You never treated me like family," I said. "You said I wasn't worthy. Let Ben learn to stand on his own, like I did." I hung up my resolve. Unshaken. Months later, my father sent a letter, pleading for help. They faced eviction and Ben was spiraling, drinking with a rough crowd. "You're our last hope," he wrote. I read it in my mansion bedroom, the words reopening old wounds. I remembered the attic, the neglect, the stolen house. "I'm not helping," I told Grandpa. They had their chance. One winter day I saw Ben. On a Chicago street corner, his face gaunt, his jacket thin. "Dorian," he called, his voice hoarse. "Can you help?" "Just a little." I looked at the boy who'd once had everything I didn't. "Stand on your own, Ben," I said, like I had to. I walked away, the snow crunching under my boots. Choosing my future. Chicago became my home, not just for its skyscrapers, but for the life I built. I'm in my second year of college, excelling in civil engineering. Emma and my friends at the engineering club are my community, their laughter filling the voids of my past. At Grandpa's company, I've taken on larger projects, even leading a small construction job. I'm writing my book, each word a step toward healing. The scars remain, but they've forged me. My mother's heart beats in me, and with Grandpa's support, I know I deserve this life. The past no longer chains me. I've chosen to rise.